Hello everyone. Today we will talk about the ribs. Ribs are the curved bony arches and forms the majority part of the thoracic skeleton. They are 12 in the number and they are arranged in the pairs. Okay, so we have a 12 pair of the ribs in the thoracic skeleton. Now, these are the ribs. Ribs are also known as costae. Okay, and there are spaces between the each ribs that you can see, that is known as intercostal spaces. So intercostal spaces are deeper in the anterior part than the posterior part, and the intercostal spaces are more marked in the upper ribs than the lower ribs. Now if we talk about the arrangement of the ribs, so see, first rib is that is arranged in the horizontal plane. Okay, it is totally horizontal. Then after there increases the obliquity of the ribs, and maximum obliquity reaches at the ninth rib. And you can also see that the first rib is the shortest. Thereafter there increases in the length of the ribs. That length increases up to the seventh rib. Okay, so up to the seventh rib there is a maximum length, and thereafter it decreases. Now out of the 12 ribs, we have a true ribs and the false ribs. So true ribs are, see, you can see the ribs that is attached articulating with the sternum, right? So some of the ribs are directly articulating with the sternum with the help of the costal cartilages. So they are known as vertebrosternal ribs, as it also articulates with the vertebra here posteriorly and anteriorly directly articulating with the sternum. So they are known as vertebrosternal ribs. Okay, see, and the next three ribs, that is 7, 8, sorry, up to the 7th rib it will articulate with the sternum. Then 8th, 9th and the 10th, that will articulate with the costal cartilages. Okay, each costal cartilage that will articulate with the higher one, and it will form the costal margin, and through the help of the costal margin that will articulate with the sternum. So it articulates sternum with the indirect method. So they are known as vertebrochondral ribs. And the last two ribs, these are the last two ribs. Okay, so anterior end does not having the costal cartilages, they do not articulate with the sternum. They will that will articulate with the vertebral column only, so that they are the vertebral ribs. Okay, so these are the classification according to the articulation with the sternum: vertebrosternal, vertebrochondral and vertebral ribs. And out of the 12, the upper 7 are the true ribs and the lower 5 are false ribs. Now the first and the second rib and 10, 11, 12, these are the atypical ribs, because they are having the different features, and rest of the ribs, they are having the same features and they are known as typical ribs. Now we will see the ribs in individual. So now we will see the typical ribs first, so we can identify the features of the typical ribs as well as of the atypical ribs. That we have talked that first, second and 10, 11, 12th ribs are the atypical ribs. So from 3 to 9 they are the typical ribs. Now how will you identify the ends of the ribs? So see, anterior end of the rib, it will have a concave oval facet for the articulation with the costal cartilage, and the posterior end, this is the posterior end, it will be having the head, this is the neck and this is the tubercle. So we have a head, neck and tubercle at the posterior end. Okay, so this is the anterior end, this is the posterior end. How will you identify the upper and the lower upper and the lower border, outer and the inner surfaces? As we have talked that the ribs are obliquely arranged, right? So the typical ribs will be having outer surface, inner surface, this will be a upper border and this will be the lower border. So along the inner surface Along the inner surface of the typical rib, you will find out the costal groove. We have a groove over here in the lower part of the inner surface. So this is the lower part of the inner surface of the typical rib. Okay. So this will be the upper border, this will be the lower border which is sharp, this will be the outer surface. Okay. This is the anterior end with the concave depression, and this is the posterior end having head, neck and the tubercle. So this is how you will identify the side of the rib. So this is of the right side. Okay. This is anterior end, posterior end. This is the inner surface having the costal groove, and this is the outer surface. Now we will see the attachment along the first we will see the features of the posterior end. So in the head of the typical rib, okay, we have two facets. Upper is smaller, lower is larger. Okay, two facets are there, and that will articulate with the body of the thoracic vertebra. Okay, same like this is the typical thoracic vertebra. On the side of the body will have a half facet on the upper aspect, half facet on the lower aspect. Same like here we have two facets on the head of the typical rib, intervening the crest between them. Okay, so the lower larger facet, you can see this is the lower facet which is larger, that articulates with the corresponding numerically corresponding vertebra. Means same, if this is a fifth rib, okay, this will be the fifth thoracic vertebra, and the lower larger facet of the typical rib will articulate with this upper facet of the side of the body of the thoracic vertebra, and this is how it will articulate with the body of the thoracic vertebra, and this will form the this is the costovertebral joint. Okay, and the upper smaller facet will articulate with the higher thoracic vertebra. Means here it will articulate like this. The lower half facet of the side of the body, it will articulate with the lower down rib. Okay, so you have to remember that lower larger facet will articulate with the same number of the thoracic vertebra. Now this is the neck. Neck is having anterior surface, posterior surface. Anterior surface is smooth, posterior surface is rough. It is having the upper border and the lower border. Upper border is sharp and it is known as crest of the neck. And this is the tubercle. Tubercles will be having the articular part medially, non-articular part laterally. Okay, this tubercle, the articular part will articulate with the corresponding vertebra along the facet that is present on the transverse process. So this is how it will articulate. Okay, you can see lower larger facet to the same number of the thoracic vertebra but on the upper facet, and this facet on the tubercle will articulate with the facet on the transverse process of the same number vertebra. So this is how we have a costovertebral joint, and this is the costotransverse joint. Both the joints are plain variety of the synovial joints. Now about the shaft. So shaft of the typical rib is curved, okay, and about 5 cm lateral to the tubercle, we can see one oblique line passing downward and laterally. Okay, so this is known as angle of the rib. This is the angle of the rib, and here the rib is twisted. So typical ribs are twisted, and there is a presence of angle that will be 5 cm lateral to the tubercle. Now along the shaft, the outer surface is smooth and the inner surface will have costal groove in the lower aspect. Okay, So you can see that costal groove is bounded above by the ridge, and this is the lower border of the shaft of the rib, which is shaft. And you can also see that the ridge above the costal groove extends and will continue with the lower border of the neck of the posterior end of the rib. So these are the features of the typical rib. Okay, and we have attachments on the typical ribs. They are mostly the external intercostal muscle, internal intercostal muscle, intercostalis intimus muscle, right? So the upper border of the typical rib is rounded and it will be having outer lip and the inner lip. So along the upper border we have insertion of the external as well as internal intercostal muscles. So along the outer lip of the upper border of the typical rib, we have insertion of the external intercostal muscle. Along the inner lip, we have insertion of internal intercostal muscle and intercostalis intimi. Now, the lower border of the typical rib will give origin to external intercostal muscle. From the costal groove, we have origin of internal intercostal muscle, and the ridge above the costal groove will give origin to intercostalis intimi muscle, but it will be in the middle 2/4 area of the ridge above the costal groove on the typical ribs. The costal groove in the typical ribs, it will allow the passage of posterior intercostal vessels and the intercostal nerves. So this was all about the typical ribs. Now we'll see the atypical ribs. So now we'll talk about the first rib. You can see this is the first rib. Okay, they are the shortest, broadest, flat ribs. Okay, it is flattened one when we compare it to the others, and it is mostly curved. Now, so this is of the right side, this is of the left side. First thing to remember that when you put the rib, first rib on the flat surface, on the hard surface, the anterior end as well as the posterior end of the first rib will touch the surface. Okay, right now I have kept it on the respective side, but if I keep it like this, okay, you can see the posterior end is elevated and not touching the surface. But if I keep it like this, anterior as well as the posterior end will touch the hard surface. So this is how you have to identify the side determination of the first rib. Same, anterior end of the first rib will be having the oval, larger and concave facet. Okay, and posteriorly we have a head. This is the first rib having the anterior, larger, pitted, concave facet for the first costal cartilage. This is the head of the first rib. And you can see here there will be only one single facet present on the head of the first rib. Then we have a neck which is directed laterally, and next to the neck we have a tubercle. This is a tubercle. So only we have a articular part over here. Okay, so this will articulate with the first thoracic vertebra, side of the body of the first thoracic vertebra. This will articulate with the facet present on the transverse bosses of the first thoracic vertebra. Okay, now we have identified the side after keeping it on the hard surface. So this will be the superior surface and this will be the inferior surface. This will be the outer border, this will be the inner border. Along the superior surface will be directed more upwards rather than, okay, the outer surface of the typical rib were directed outwards, and the inner surface of the first rib is directed downward rather than the typical ribs, the inner surface that was directed inwards. So along the upper surface of the first rib we have two shallow grooves. Okay, two shallow grooves are there, and between the groove we have one tubercle. So it is not very well marked, but we can see one projection along the medial border, that is known as scalene tubercle. Along the inner border of the first rib, between the two shallow groove on the upper surface, okay, we have a one tubercle, that is scalene tubercle. Now the anterior groove is for the subclavian vein, the posterior groove is for the subclavian artery and lower trunk of the brachial plexus. And also we have a, see, in the first rib, the tubercle that coincides with the angle of the rib, and here we have a beginning of the shaft of the rib. So this much area which is behind the second groove on the upper surface, it gives attachment to the, it will give origin to the upper half of the first digitation of serratus anterior muscle, and the area behind the second groove over here, it will give that will give attachment to the scalenus medius muscle, and the scalene tubercle will give attachment to the scalenus anterior muscle. Two grooves are there. Anterior one is for the subclavian vein, posterior one is for the subclavian artery and lower trunk of brachial plexus. The outer part of the upper surface of the rib, that will give attachment to the upper half of the first digitation of serratus anterior. Scalene tubercle, that gives attachment to the scalenus anterior muscle, and the area behind the posterior shallow groove, this area will give attachment to the scalenus medius muscle. Now this is the area anterior end of the first rib. Here we have a costal cartilage of the first rib. So at the first costochondral junction, we have a origin of the subclavius muscle, and anterior to that here will have attachment of the costoclavicular ligament. Now the lower surface of the first rib, they do not have the costal groove, but the neurovascular bundle that will be running under the surface of the first rib. Most important one is the anterior relation of the neck of the first rib. So here from medial to lateral side, we have a relation of the sympathetic chain, posterior intercostal vein, superior intercostal artery, and first thoracic nerve. So you have a mnemonic to remember this: chain pulling the one. Chain means sympathetic chain, and VAN, that resembles with the vein, artery and the nerve. This is the most important one question that is asked in the exam. Okay, so this was all about the first rib. Now these are the second rib. Okay, you can see it is not that much horizontal, not that much oblique, right? And it is twice in the length of the first rib. You can see these are the first rib, these are the second ribs. Okay, it is twice in the length when we compare it to the first. So I'll take the right sided one. Okay, this is again, this is anterior end having the concave depression. This is the posterior end having the head, neck and the tubercle. Now here we have articular part as well as non-articular part, and there is no twist in the second rib. There will be angle somewhat lateral to the tubercle, there will be angle of the rib. Okay, the most conspicuous feature to identify the second rib is, that is a tubercle present on the upper surface. This is the tubercle. Here again we can see this is a tubercle on the upper surfaces, and this is how we will identify the second rib. The tubercle present on the outer surface of the second rib, that gives attachment to the, see, that gives origin to lower half of the first digitation and the second digitation of the serratus anterior muscle, and area behind the tubercle will give attachment to the scalenus posterior muscle. So these two attachments are there. Here we have a 1.5 digitation of serratus anterior muscle, and here we have a scalenus posterior muscle. Now these are the lower down ribs. This is the 10th rib, this is 11th, and this is the 12th rib. So these are the atypical ribs. See, the 10th rib is same like to that of the typical rib. Only one difference is single facet on the head. Rest of the things are like that of the typical ribs. Only the difference is we have a single facet on the head of the 10th rib. Now the 11th and the 12th ribs are the floating ribs. They are also known as vertebral ribs, right? As we know that typical ribs are having the typical ribs are having what? Head, neck, we have tubercle, we have a costal groove, and we have angle, right? So all these features, the neck, tubercle, costal groove, and the angle, that is not at all present in the 12th rib. All the features are absent in the 12th rib. In the 11th rib, the costal groove is poorly marked and the angle is poorly marked. There is no tubercle, there is no neck in the 11th rib, but we have angle and the costal groove, that is also poorly marked and not at all in the 12th rib. That you have to remember. Now we will see the attachments along the 12th rib that is asked in the exam. So this is the 12th rib on the of the left side. So this is the inner surface and this is the outer surface. This is the head, this is the posterior end, and this is the anterior end. Okay, along the inner surface of the 12th rib, here on the medial half to the medial 2/3 of the inner surface, on the lower part we have an attachment of the quadratus lumborum muscle and fascia covering it, and that is the thoracolumbar fascia. Above the quadratus lumborum muscle over here along the upper border, we have attachment of the internal intercostal muscle. Along the anterior end here, we have attachment of the diaphragm muscle. And remember that the 3/4 of the inner surface, 3/4 of the inner surface of the 12th rib is related to the costodiaphragmatic recess of the pleura. This is very much important. Now this is the outer surface, and outer surface on the medial side we have attachment of the here up on the upper aspect we have costotransverse ligament. On the lower down part we have a lumbocostal ligament. Rest of the part this will give attachment to, we have muscles of the back, that is the levator costi, then longissimus and the iliocostalis. And this is in the medial part of the outer surface of the 12th rib. This is on the lateral half where we have attachment of the latissimus dorsi in the upper border. On the anterior end, lower down, external oblique, and posterior to that here we have a serratus posterior inferior. As we have seen serratus anterior muscle, right? So we have a serratus posterior also, but serratus posterior muscle is superior as well as inferior. So serratus posterior inferior, that is attached on the outer surface lateral half of the 12th rib. So these are the attachments of the 12th rib. Now I forgot to tell you about the costotransverse ligaments, right? See, this is the neck of the typical rib having the upper border posterior surface. Upper border is the crest of the neck. It gives attachment to the superior costotransverse ligament. Posterior surface is rough, gives attachment to the inferior costotransverse ligament. And the tubercle is having articular part and the non-articular part. So non-articular part will give attachment to the lateral costotransverse ligament. So costotransverse ligament, right? So we have here we have a superior costotransverse ligament on the crest of the neck. On the lateral part, non-articular part of the tubercle, we have a lateral costotransverse ligament, and the area between the posterior surface of the neck of the rib, we have an inferior costotransverse ligament. Okay. Now see, we have seen 12 pair of the ribs in the thoracic skeleton. Okay, the number may increase or number may decrease. How can it increase? So we have a 7 cervical seven cervical vertebra over here, right? So from the transverse process of the 7 cervical vertebra, we may have one bony extension and will be attached to the upper part of the sternum. So that is known as cervical rib. We may have a lumbar rib. From the first lumbar vertebra, we have a bony arches extending laterally. So that will be the lumbar rib. That is also known as gorilla rib. There may be absence of the 12th rib. So in that case, we have a number that will be decreased. So this is how we have increased in the number of the ribs with the presence of cervical rib and the lumbar ribs. When the cervical rib is present, there will be compression of the subclavian artery and lower trunk of the brachial plexus that is related on the upper surface of the first rib, and that is known as cervical rib syndrome. And the inner border of the first rib, here we have attachment of the suprapleural membrane, and that will close the thoracic inlet. Okay, so along the inner border of the first rib, we have attachment of the suprapleural membrane. So that was all about the ribs. We have attachment of the